Welcome to the Contemporary Composer channel. Today, we're having our second part of our series on the fundamentals of electronic music production. In this episode, we're going to start getting familiar with the building block of our virtual music making, dynamics. You can find countless books on harmony, melody, composition, and counterpoint, and we're going to talk about it. But dynamics, as in our case, is still a kind of foggy place, which we're going to investigate today. The main elements that we're going to analyze will be the high-level curve and the low-level curve. The first is the curve we see when we first imagine a dynamic expression, and that is the curve which gives the overarching character of the passage. This would generally be a broad curve with longer developments. The second one, the low-level curve, informs us about the individual dynamic state of a specific point of reference. Many times, the state of the low level can be the same or very close to the high level. If in a passage, most of the low level is similar to the high level, we can say the dynamic state of this passage is of low intensity. If on the other hand, the curves are mostly different, the passage has a high intensity dynamic state. Now, let's take a look at some of these concepts in practice. So let's get it started. Over here, we have the same project as the last video, and we have the automations over here in the playlist of the dynamics. We have 8 notes representing each of the dynamics, so we can hear the dynamics. I have made the scale of A major, and we can hear very clearly all the dynamics, and then we're gonna listen to it and hear how each dynamic marking, beginning from pianissimo and going to fortissimo. So we start here and we go all the way here, and we are gonna see that from 2% until 15%, from 15% until 30%, from 30% until 48%, from 48% until 55, 55 to 66, 66 to 77, 77 to 88, and 88 to 100. And all these numbers I took from Wikipedia, which have the dynamic markings represented in MIDI control values. So I took from there. It's in the screen, so we can check. And then I did some quick math to convert it from 127 MIDI valuation to percent, so it goes from 0 to 100. So this is how we represent each dynamic marking in automation. Okay, so this is very important. We must remember this because this is basically what we'll be using. Be sure to understand this, and let's take a listen to each of the dynamic markings. Now, let's visualize how these ranges are applied in a short passage. Remember that from individual small passages, the whole is composed. In a piece of music, dynamics can go up, down, or stay the same. From there, we can recreate these movements with our automation clip. If we apply what we saw before, we can say that this example is mainly at pianissimo to piano, with a build-up toward mezzo forte, which goes down to silence. That's the high-level curve, the one we usually see in the score of pieces. Let's listen to it. The other is the low-level curve, which is the one we actually hear, with all of its nuances. And we ought to sharpen our measure devices so we can detect and reproduce the most subtle detail in our pieces. In the automation, we see more points than before, and that is our attempt at recreating the constant change in movement when an actual player is performing. In this example, we see that our passage is of low dynamic intensity, as the lower-level points form curves which mostly line up to the high level. Let's listen and analyze the difference between them. As we can hear and see, the second one is more expressive. The curve enhances the rhythmic discourse, whereas the note would just hold still, would do a quick rise and fall. After it dies out, but not without fighting twice, it rises up again higher than it's ever been. In a more analytical way, you see that we disrupt the high level and modulate the low level into it so we can achieve a better sounding shape. Theatrics aside, this part of refining your expression idea runs deep in how you shape your automation. We must, as I hinted before, check if the shape we created is synergizing with the raw sound we heard before, the core rhythm, and the subtle details each library has. Legato transitions being too loud, dynamic discrepancies in the note or articulation recorded, different attack levels in different notes, and other artifacts the manufacturers of these amazing libraries can't really fix with ease, so it's our part of the job to get it right. Also, when combining multiple instruments, we must account for even more things, and some artifacts are fixed when put in a broader context, but don't let that fool you. And always be aware of a specific phenomena that happen in each library so you can account for them when shaping your curve. In this other example, we'll see a passage that has a high dynamic intensity. The low level differs more from the high level. We have less points in this one, but don't let that carry you away. Every point has its purpose. Here we see something present in the other automation, but this time it's way more important and common. That is a technique we can use to recreate many effects, change of bow direction, enhancement of marcato-like events, or generally accentuated beats, enhanced definition of unslurred movements, and many other things we will see. In this case, I used it to recreate some bow direction change fill and to enhance accentuations. All we have to do is create a point in the grid line you want to operate on. Then we make this point lower than the others, directly surrounding it, as if the performer is reducing strength on his or her grip to change the direction. As you make the difference bigger, the effect gets stronger. We can do a fade out before the point so we have a smooth reduction of tension, or we can just recreate the performer only changing direction on the beat without prior deceleration. We also made a static note move through dynamic movement, always being aware of our core rhythm, the note before and after it. Let's check this example. The curve follows the melody rising and falling when the shorter note arrives, rises again and repeat, creating a pattern of motion. This is a key concept too. Make your listener comfortable with what he is listening, introduce things properly, dynamic patterns included. Repetition is almost never a bad idea. Together with variation, it can make the simple ideas shine through a new light. In this case, we have a main idea repeated twice with variation. The dynamics are just the same in both instances. These examples are from a piece I composed for cello and piano. It begins in D minor, suggesting Dorian mode of C, and evolves to C major proper throughout the piece. I'll leave it at the end of the video for those of you who might like to listen to it. In the next video, we'll continue with dynamics. We'll focus on recreating common passages and keep looking out for common artifacts and shapes. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, comment what you want to see here on the channel, and stay safe out there. See you in the next one.